What's going on, guys? I'm Zach from the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus actually turns a year old this weekend, which is wild. It both feels like it was yesterday and at the same time feels like it was so long ago. Time is a weird thing, and that's actually kind of related to what we're talking about. So, there's this line from Legends Arceus that's been bothering me ever since I read it. Once you play through the game, once you go through it, and you take on Volo at the very end, you know, he sixes Giratina on you, and then does it again, and like one of the greatest, mind-blowing moments, plot twist moments of any Pokemon game, in my opinion. Once you do this, you go back, life is happy, you know, you can just shiny hunt now. But then, there's one line where Professor Laventon kind of says, well, I imagine we haven't seen the last of Volo. And, you know, that's well and fine. That he says that, and then, at the time, we were being told by, if you kept up with leaks, we were being told by a leaker that there was going to be Legends Arceus DLC. And so a lot of people, you know, speculated we could go to Sinjoh, and most everyone speculated that Volo would be in it in some capacity because he, you know, just kind of was straight up said to be returning, right? But the DLC ended up not being much story-wise. It was just, you know, the Daybreak DLC, which was really just here's a way to shiny hunt even more. And while that's great, it still wasn't what I was hoping for. And it didn't give me an answer. What did Laventon mean? What was Pokemon doing here? I mean, sure, it could have been an ominous line. We've seen, like, in Sword and Shield, Mustard had this whole line at the end of the Isle of Armor where, like, he teases, like, something big is coming, and, like, everybody looks at him and is like, what? And he's like, you know, don't worry about it. And maybe that's what they were intending, but I don't know. It felt more ominous than that. It felt like he was just straight up saying, Laventon was just straight up saying, Volo's going to come back. And I was thinking, clearly, because of the DLC not having Volo return, Volo's not coming back in Legends Arceus. But maybe he is still coming back. Maybe Laventon was sort of breaking the fourth wall there by letting you know you haven't seen the last of Volo. And let me get into a number of ways on how. So the first way is the most obvious way. Legends, those games were really, really well received. People loved those games. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get other Legends games down the road. You know, people are already talking about a Legends Johto and a Legends Unova, you know, Legends Celebi and Legends Kyurem or the True Dragon, whatever it may be. People are even already talking about Legends Kalos and Legends Hoenn and all kinds of stuff. But you know, it makes sense Pokemon would do that because, I mean, like I said, there were successful games, and so why wouldn't you? So Volo could pop up there, you know, if they set a Legends Unova game in the same time period as Legends Arceus. It could be, you know, like 2 years afterwards, and Volo pops up in the Unova region, which, for the record, would actually be kind of a nice nod to how Cynthia has a vacation home in Undella Town in present-day Unova. So then, since Cynthia was in the Unova games, you put Volo, her ancestor, in the Legends Unova games. That would be a really cool reference. But that is, like, the easiest way they could do it, and I would be satisfied with that. But that's where we talk about time, and specifically time travel. If you've been playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you know that time is a very heavy theme in these games. You have, you know, Koraidon and Miraidon representing the past and the future, and the past Paradox Pokemon, the future Paradox Pokemon, and they are said to be from the distant past or the distant future. You know, there's a lot of speculation on why maybe that's not the case, but all that aside, even if that isn't the case, the fact of the matter is that time is a very heavy theme in these games. So maybe it could be in Scarlet and Violet DLC, there are some time shenanigans, and Volo comes in. You know, I think in a similar way to how Sun and Moon had Ultra Wormholes, and you would get Ultra Beasts that way, and the Ultra Beasts were the paradoxes of that gen, if you will. Like, we have Paradox Pokemon now. The Gen 7 version of that was the Ultra Beasts. But I'm thinking that you can look at Sun and Moon and say, okay, you could get the Ultra Beast that way, but then in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they did a little more with wormholes. And, you know, yeah, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon isn't DLC, but it was the past version of DLC. They've said that DLC is to take the place of remastered versions like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or sequel games like Black 2 and White 2, or third versions like Emerald. It's supposed to take the place of that. So Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is Sun and Moon's DLC, if you will. And in those games, you do a lot more with wormholes. You can go through them now. You can visit the homeland of these Ultra Beasts. You can see where Buzzwole's from, where Pheromosa's from, all that stuff. And you can also even encounter villains from these Ultra Wormholes. You have this whole post-game plot with Rainbow Rocket, where Giovanni has come through an Ultra Wormhole, and it's specifically a Giovanni from a world where he has won. And then other villains also have come in from worlds where they won via Ultra Wormholes. So they set up a villain, a post-game villain specifically, that came in through these wormholes. So now, if we're doing time shenanigans in these games, why not have a villain come in who came in via time shenanigans? I mean, even if these Pokemon are imagined, there's still very easy ways to write Volo into the story. We know that Hisui's events are in large recorded. We know this because you can actually see the Hisui region being taught about in the history class with Laventon and Hisui Ball and all this in the background of the on the board in the history class. So people would know about Volo. So if this third legendary is indeed imagining stuff, someone could hypothetically imagine Volo into existence. Now, obviously, the person doing this would have to be evil, I'm sure, but either way, it is a way they could bring Volo in. And I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. Volo was a great villain. We loved Volo, like most people loved. I don't want to speak for everyone, but Volo was in large very well received. And it just, I don't know, it totally makes sense to me that he could come back. There's so many unanswered questions from Legends Arceus, and I do think they'll touch him in the future. You know, even aside from Volo, you have the Ingo stuff, and I think they are going to touch on that. Now, you know, I don't think the Ingo stuff will be touched on Scarlet and Violet DLC. Maybe it will, but I highly doubt it. It will probably be touched on some Unova-related game, and maybe they would say Volo until then, since he's, you know, from that same area as Ingo. Maybe that's what he'd do, but I think that you can't rule out Volo appearing in the Scarlet and Violet DLC. So all I'm saying is, when DLC gets announced this year and you're heading to the insert DLC name here, just keep your eyes peeled, because Volo might be lurking somewhere. Be sure to let me know in the comments below if you think that we will see Volo again, even if not in Scarlet and Violet DLC, just a future Pokemon game down the line. Do you think it could happen? Do you think it's plausible? And would you want to see Volo return? Or are you like, yeah, no, been there, done that, don't need to see him again? Be sure to also like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you stay up to date on all of our future Pokemon videos. I mean, if Volo gets confirmed to return, we'll be covering it. Until next time, I will see all of you later.